All right, good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear me? So I like coming down here to talk amongst all of you. Okay.
We're in trouble.
So I'm a family doc. Shout out to the family docs. Any family docs here? So I've been in private practice for more than 15 years now. We're not hospital owned. We're independent. Woo-hoo! We're trying to keep going as long as we can. So I've been doing social media for more than 10 years, which if people don't know, in internet years, it's like 100 years. So I've been doing this for a long time, so I hope to share some of my experiences with you. You know, unfortunately, what you saw this morning and what you usually hear in the news is a lot of the negative effects of social media. And what I hope to share with you is some of the positive things that you can use in your practice, for medicine, for advocacy. So this is not about marijuana, but I know this is kind of like the kickoff to the marijuana block, so very excited about that. So I'm from Northeastern Ohio, and this is the one of the lead stories in my community from yesterday. So we talked about fast food last topic. So there was a guy who went up to a drive-through. He wanted an Ed McMuffin, wasn't there. He pulled out a gun. So I don't know. And it's been all over the media, and may have heard about it even down here in Florida. I saw that. So really interesting stuff going on up there. So thanks for the invitation to be here. My wife's in the back. When we left Ohio yesterday, it was 45 degrees. And when we landed here, it was like 83. So thanks to SMA for the invitation to be here.
You're welcome, Mike.
For people who have heard me talk before, these are some new slides that I've just put together just in the past couple of months, because as you know, in the news, social media works very quickly, and there's a lot of news that are going on that is attached to social media. You may have seen this is just 2 weeks ago, okay? So having to do with sexual harassment and how people are being empowered to tell their story. And social media has been a good way to communicate that worldwide. And it's hard to believe that, that the Las Vegas shooting was a month ago. It seems like a year ago. But you remember hearing all those stories of survivor stories, people sharing their stories, people sharing photos and pictures on Twitter and all that. That was all communicating their story out there, following that tragedy. And it's hard to even believe that, the hurricanes were even before that, even just 2 months ago. And they were even using Twitter to communicate and saying, hey, I'm on my roof. Somebody come and help me. These are some of the ways that the social media has been used to communicate, to share stories, to try to get help to some of these people. This is Joy Fessinger. He's a good friend of mine. He's from Houston. He's a family doc there. And one of the things that I try to do, because I'm a family doc, I try to do advocacy for family medicine, is to try to share people's stories. And I interviewed him and shared his story with my family medicine community about a week after Hurricane Harvey hit, because people were worried about him. People were worried about our friends in Houston. And you'll have my slides in there, and you'll be able to kind of read the story about how he shared what happened, how he shared how he had to evacuate him and his family out of his home. And there's no other way to do that other than with social media. Probably know this guy. He reached out to me, right before Irma came through this area. And he said, Mike, he's like, I want to share what's going on out here, what the community is, because, sometimes the news gets it wrong, and I want to share what's going on here. And I'm going to share just a little bit of a snippet here of our interview. Just to put it in context, our interview here was less than 24 hours from when Irma was supposed to come through this area, and didn't know what was going to happen. The only thing that we knew at that time is the devastation that happened in Houston, and no one was going to know what's going to happen here. So I'm going to advance this here. And Dylan, if you could advance it to about 1 minute in.
Regards to my family, they're safe. They're away from the area, but there's countless other families here in the state of Florida that have not evacuated for a variety of reasons. A lot of the reasons have to do with the simple fact that the roads are clogged going up I-75, I-95. People have run out of gas. Cars have been left on the road. People have decided to walk it and it's just been a disaster with regards to that. A simple drive from Miami to Ocala, Florida shouldn't take 10 hours to get there. Food is gone, water is gone. People that are decided that to not leave have decided obviously to shelter in. And a lot of people have, at least in my neighborhood, have boarded up, put up their hurricane shutters and so on and so forth. County EM has gave evacuation orders for my county for level A and level B. What that basically means that anybody near the shore and anybody slightly higher than the shore needs to get out of town because storm surge is expected to go anywhere between 5 feet to 15 feet. Basically, the first floor of your house is going to be underwater. And then add to that category 3, category 4 wind speeds can go anywhere from 115 to about 130 miles an hour for a sustained amount of time for at least, 7 hours. And then, as you can imagine, that those are not survivable conditions. So we have made every effort, not only at our place, but also myself as an individual, telling people, do not shelter in, leave the area. If you can, leave the area. If you can't, go to higher ground, go to areas that are structurally strong enough to withstand those kind of winds and that kind of water too. It's just going to be an utter disaster. When I evacuated, we took almost everything that we possibly could. Those things that I left behind are things, yes. But just to sit there as you roll out the door, sitting there thinking, this is the last time I'll ever see this house. This is maybe the last time I'll be able to see this neighborhood intact. And then knowing that you have neighbors that are camping it in there, they may not survive, is quite the sobering thought to have. But it is where we are right now. I fortunately, in my role, I've evacuated to the hospital. So I'm trying to get our medical staff as well as the hospital ready. And we're actually pretty darn ready, So I think we're in good shape. I think from a hospital standpoint, we're a trauma center. I think we're going to do just fine, considering the circumstances that we have. But the biggest thing, really, when you come to these kind of things is...
So you can see, Dr. Kumar was working, and so he gave us a little bit of an insight of what it was to be on the ground here. I can't even imagine people who live in this area who went through that and didn't know what was going to happen. But this is one of the ways that social media can really help share the story from a first-person perspective, not through any kind of filter. Kind of continuing this story, so the people in our family medicine community, we got together and say, hey, we have friends in Puerto Rico from Hurricane Maria, and we in our own community, have been trying to organize to raise funds to, get generators there, get funding there, and we were able to kind of, share some of our story through social media as well. And we were able to raise, thousands of dollars in a very quick period of time, just because of our social media contacts through Facebook and things. So these are some of the positive things that really can be used for that. So I've been in private practice for 15 years. So I'm in a group with 5 other family docs, a nurse practitioner. We're in a small community in northeastern Ohio, and I'm one of you. I'm a guy who has a private practice, sees patients every day, go to the hospital every day, and try to balance some of this social media type of things just to tell the story of medicine. Now we're going to try this, huh? We're going to try this. So we're going to try this question. I'm very excited. We're going to try out something exciting and new. So here is the first question. I know the first question is going to be a very difficult question, but we're going to kind of see if this technology is going to work here. All right, so very hard first question. So all the following are social media platforms except A is Facebook, B Instagram, C Twitter, D Snapchat, and E yes. Yeah, so we'll go. So of course it's Buccaneers, so wait for it. So let's do question 2. I went out of order. So reasons to use social media include the following: A, patient education; B, marketing of your hospital, clinic, etc.; C, to dispel myths; and D, health policy advocacy. So of course, this is the last one. We can switch back. So that's how I utilize this. Okay, and that's when I talk to physicians. I've been talking to physicians, for 5 years or more now, all over the country, and saying that these are ways that you can use that. So this is what I'll talk about in my talk today. That your patients are already using social media. I'll show you an example of that. Marketing and correcting misinformation. So the resident students in the room? Anyone want to admit to it? So what I do is, I'm a family doc, and I advocate for family medicine, and it's great that I was given an opportunity by my specialty organization to be part of organized medicine, be part of my academy, Howard Academy of Family Physicians, as a student and as a resident in leadership, and I think it's important for them to be a part of that. So one of the things that you can use social media for is for advocacy, and the medical students that rotate with me, I show them this video to try to get them to do family medicine. So why don't we play this and see.
I treat people, not disease.
I build community.
I am a family physician.
I'm a leader.
I am a scientist.
An introvert.
I am a people person.
And I am all about my patients.
I serve the underserved.
I practice evidence-based medicine
in a meaningful way.
I'm equal parts creativity and compassion.
What I do is sacred.
I make a difference in the clinic,
in DC, in the boardroom.
And I do it every day.
Every day.
I save lives.
I improve lives.
And oh yeah, I live a life.
I deliver babies.
Vaccinate.
Do procedures.
And follow up.
Care.
I laugh.
Pray.
Hold hands.
I say goodbye.
I ask hard questions.
And push for reform. Because I'm willing to fight for what's right.
For me, my patients,
and family medicine.
I am flexible.
I'm resourceful.
And that's what makes me powerful.
I listen.
I tell the truth.
I build community.
I know your name.
I speak your language.
I am a husband.
I am a grandparent.
A wife.
Healer.
A parent.
I'm a teacher.
Veteran.
A soldier.
I'm a quiet advocate.
I give high fives.
Hugs.
Smiles.
Deliver bad news with empathy.
Treat the dear friend
and the difficult patient.
I find what works.
I am family medicine.
I am family medicine.
I am family medicine.
I don't walk away.
I never stop.
And I'll do it again tomorrow.
So this is something that's unique, to social media. I mean, just think if your own specialty, if you had something like that for an advocate, to promote to students, not only, medical students, but high school students in your community. I have found that, society and the press, they just beat up doctors these days for whatever reason, and we have to kind of stand up for ourselves and say why we chose this profession. And I show this to students and say, hey, this is not what you see in the movies or in the press or something like that. This is what we do every day. So this is the number one question I usually get, okay? I do not use social media to communicate with patients, and you should not either, period, okay? Don't use Twitter, don't use Facebook, nothing, okay? So I use it for, like I said before, patient education, dispel myths, advocacy. We did this already. So yeah, there's a new platform every day, okay? And I don't advocate that docs should do every crazy thing that I should do, okay? You should at least be familiar with it because your patients are using this. All right, so let's switch over here. Let's try this question here. So in a 2013 study, approximately what percentage of U.S. adults have looked online for medical information? So A is 15%, B 25%, C 35%, D 45%, and E 55%. Okay, looks like we're going with 55%, so we can switch back over there. So this data is from the Pew Internet Research Project. If you're looking for data when it comes to digital media, digital communication, this is the website to use. And this is very recent information. I know you can't see that back there, but I'll just read this. As of August 2017, 2/3 of Americans report they get at least some of their news on social media. And I don't need to tell you that. Your patients bring in stuff all the time. But that is the impact of this. And I still have docs saying, hey, I'm ignoring it. It's not important. Why do I even need to know about it? That's why. 2/3 of your patients getting your news there. Why are we talking about this? This is old data, but it's saying here 23% of U.S. adults use Twitter, 71% of adults use Facebook. As of this slide, is 900 million. Facebook, we all know now that's over 1 billion now. So this is why patients, you should know about it. We will switch over. So in a 2011 study, approximately what percentage of practicing physicians think social networking sites have potential for improving doctor-patient communication? A is 20%, B is 40%, C is 60%, and D is 80%. All right. So we're going with 40%, so we can switch back over. So this is more information from the Pew Internet Research Project. So 59% of U.S. adults have looked online for health information in the past year. 35% of U.S. adults say they've used the internet to try to figure out a medical condition. So they're going to the internet for news. They're going online to find out their diagnosis. So patients are using it. Patients are using it to tell their story. Okay. This is my friend Carrie. She is a patient with type 1 diabetes. The title of her website is 6untilme.com because she was diagnosed at age 6. And the reason why she started her website was that she felt like she was the only person on earth with diabetes, and she wanted to reach out to other people with her same condition. And the success of her website is because of the strong diabetes community out there. And I go there to read articles. I don't go there saying I'm Dr. Sevilla and this is what I think about diabetes. I go there to learn myself. One of the things I learned there is, how do you hide an insulin pump in a wedding dress? I wouldn't, all my training, all your medical training, we would never know that. But you go here, there's people not only in the United States, but around the world who give feedback on things like that, every day-to-day things. And that's the reason why you should be aware of this, okay? I'm going to show you a video here. And this is Carrie.
The noise. You know the noise I'm talking about. That song that the pump plays when it has issues and it needs something, wants to be primed or wants a battery or needs a hug or whatever it needs. That noise. That song is ingrained in my head. It's Pavlovian. I hear it go off and I immediately get angry. So I needed to switch things up to keep my sanity sane. So what I decided to do was to finally make use of the software My first goal was to make a logbook, and like a real logbook, one that I look at on a week-to-week basis, not something that I jot down, feverishly in the endo's office. You switch pens that you're using, and you try to like crinkle the edges of the paper so it looks like you have been keeping this logbook for years, and it looks so tattered, like a pirate's treasure map. But it's not. It's the logbook you started and finished while you were sitting waiting in their office. You know the drill. That was the first thing I did with the software. But the second thing I did, and this was the part that oddly enough was most important to me, was I got rid of that song. I wanted to change this song, but I didn't have the owner's manual handy because I just didn't have it out that day. So I went online and I Googled how to change the song in my Animus ping, and lo and behold, someone on 2diabetes.com had the answer, so I read through the thread, and I was actually able to change it within just a couple of minutes, and there were all these other songs uploaded in there too, so now I have plenty of options for when the beeping starts to make me mad, and not mad in like an angry way, mad in like a lunatic way. My pump is now not just trilling at me, it plays 80s music, and that brings me great unadulterated joy. I love my new song. It's reignited my diabetes techno joy. So now I can change the song whenever I feel like it, which is important because when this thing beeps at you, you need to listen and you need to take into account what it's asking you to do. This thing is with me all the time, so it may as well be customized. It may as well be something that makes me happy. And it's up to me to take the steps to make it mine, So now my biggest concern is making sure that the ringtone on my phone and the spazzy noise on my pump are not one and the same, because otherwise it could get confusing on one end of answering my pump if it calls, Hi, how can I help you? Oh, sure, you're looking to speak with my pancreas? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not busy. Hang on. I'm glad there are ways to actually make this feel like it's mine and it's unique and it's special to me, because it should feel special to me. It's attached to me all day long. Pumpy, or whatever you decide to call it. So Fur-Elise is now forever banished from my home, or at least my pump, until I change it back. But at least I have the option, which is nice. It's like a dolphin. Go, Flipper! You're such a good pump, Flippy! Bye! Call us!
So why is that good? I mean, it's good. It's first person. It's funny. Tells her own story. Could not tell a story that I could say. And this is how our patients are utilizing social media to tell their story. Now, I mean, we could do that too. You say, hi, I'm Dr. Mike Sevilla, and this is why the flu shot will not cause the flu. I mean, I'm probably the only person, the only doctor that gets that question from patients. But, we could do that, okay? And you do that, especially the primary care people out there, you probably say it 15 times a day, okay? So you can just record yourself saying that and then say, hey, go to our, clinic, Facebook page or whatever, and this is why it's not. Here are some, references and footnotes why it doesn't, okay? So this is a way we can educate our patients in doing this. So it's been a few years, but I was asked by Medical Economics to do an article for them, and the main question that they had then, which I think is still relevant now, is do you friend your patients on Facebook, which is a huge question, and the answer is it's kind of variable. Because I tell docs, physicians and patients have been friends even before the internet was here. So there's a kind of comfort level with that. And some docs, they do friend people. Some docs don't friend people. There isn't any kind of, rule about that. It's just your comfort level. I live in a small town. And, when I go to Walmart or when I go to, I have patients stop me all the time. So it's not like you're going to say, we're at the gas station, you have to call the office. There's got to be some kind of comfort level with that. So it goes to digital communication too. So there isn't any kind of hard and fast rule on that, but it's going to happen. And I tell this to residents and students all the time. It's going to happen to you too, to think about this and how you're going to deal with that. So the 2011 study, what percentage of practicing physicians think that social networking sites have a potential for doctor-patient communication? So it's 20%, 40%, 60%, and 80%. And I think we've had around about 10 people participating, which I really appreciate. So I'm going to go with 40% so we can go back. So I know you can't see this either, but this is from the Journal of General Internal Medicine. And let me get my pointer over here. The key number is right here that I want, that is part of this question. So how physicians view patients on social media. Think social media networking sites have a potential. So physicians do see a potential for communication with patients using, digital media. And you're seeing that now, especially the bigger hospital sites. They have password protected communications. Some of the larger practices have that too. So if it is behind kind of a password wall, I do see physicians communicating with their patients with that, but not on kind of general social media. We're still trying to work out not only the liability with that, but with the payment with that too. Because if doctors are like, hey, if I'm going to communicate with that, I want to be able to charge for it. And we're still trying to work through that. For those of you in the academic area, Mayo Clinic has been at the forefront of utilizing social media. They are using social media and blog posts as part of their academic promotion process. So the students and residents coming up, they're knowing more about this. They're going to be utilizing that. So those of you in academics, you're going to be hearing about this, hopefully, in the next few years, kind of validating the value of social media use, especially with patient education. And this was a paper that was just published, going through their academic promotion and tenure from Mayo Clinic. So another way I'm using social media is for marketing, not this kind of marketing. You probably heard this in the news with Facebook and all that stuff. So, but some people are utilizing Facebook ads for that. I do have a website. And I get new patients all the time coming in my practice. Why? Because, they say, Dr. Sevilla, we're here because we Googled Salem, Ohio, where I'm from, and either family medicine or primary care, and your name came up. So the marketing part, I think, is important, and it's, especially on Facebook, it's free. And I tell residents this, I tell students this, when you were growing up, you had to be in the phone book, and they're like, what's a phone book? What's the yellow pages? Radio ads, TV ads. If you're on social media, people Google your name, and you're in your community, it's a way to grow your practice. And I tell, especially residents who are graduating, this is a way, because every time you walk into a room, or every time I walk in a room, patients are on their phone, and they're utilizing that. They're using that to find their new clinicians and doctors, and I get that every day. I use it for education. I wrote this up, about breast cancer awareness. I'm also lucky enough occasionally to go on local TV to talk about health issues, and I put that on my website as well. So if you have those opportunities in your community, there's a way to kind of let people know about what you're doing. This is the most important slide that you'll see in my presentation. So why is it important? Because especially when I talk to docs who they don't get it, they don't want to get it. I say you go to Google and you put your name in, and what do you get? It's not your Physician of the Year award, okay? It's usually a physician rating site. And because your patients are talking about you and you don't even know it. This is a reason why that you need to be on this and to get your right information out there. Anecdotally, I tell docs, there's a site, it's a professional site called LinkedIn, linkedin.com. You go there, you sign up for it. Anecdotally, what I've seen is that, when you do a search for your name, that kind of goes up almost to the top, if it's not the top. And why is that important? Because I have docs saying, hey, they search my name, and it's an address from 3 years ago from an office I'm not even there at anymore. So you use a site like LinkedIn to get your right information, your right hours, your right credentials, And that's another way that you can market yourself out there to patients to get the right information out there. Now, I know the next thing you're going to ask me, Mike, what do we do with negative reviews? Okay, I've had a lot of experience with this. I've had a lot of docs talk to me about that. There is no way that you can get a negative review taken off a site. Okay, I've had docs even have legal action, sue the sites. They're not going to do it. So what I recommend docs do, it's kind of like when you go on Amazon and you buy something. Like you go underneath there and you kind of see like the negative and positive reviews there. You kind of throw out the positive and throw out the negative. So you have to kind of be a little bit of an advocate for yourself. You go to your patient and say, hey, don't give me all 5-star reviews. What I say is, hey, give me an honest review. Put it on these sites here, if you feel comfortable doing that. And that's a way that you can tell people, your experience here. Of course, in a small community like mine, word of mouth is still the thing, but digital, communication is progressing. And that's a way how you can try to combat those negative reviews that are out there. And, there are some docs out there who are very aggressive now. They're seeing these negative reviews or even inaccurate, even bordering on libelous information, and they're terminating these patients. They're just saying, hey, you can't come here anymore, okay? Now, of course, you can do that. Any doctor can terminate any patient they want, okay? What I recommend is that, if you don't already, have some kind of social media policy for your office or for your clinic, saying that this is kind of out of bounds, okay? Now, another thing that we're seeing is that there are people that work in your office that are saying bad things about your office. And do you have a policy to let go of those people when you find that? If you don't, you need it, because something bad's going to happen to one of your, staff members, and it's maybe not against a physician. Maybe they're talking about another patient, in the practice, venting about another patient. That is also out of bounds. You have to let your staff know. You have to educate your staff about this, okay? Because you don't want to put your office or clinic, in a position where it's going to be bad stuff. So dangerous social media, this is usually the reason why people have me come and talk, because people just want to hear about the negative stuff. So this is, some of the negative stuff that you probably have heard of that I'll talk about. Just from a popular culture type of standpoint, you probably heard of this, the Little League World Series. What happened was the day before the big game, there was a team that had a negative image on social media. Basically, they gave the finger to the other team, and it was put on Snapchat. So what happened was that team was disqualified. They couldn't play in the final game. So this is some of the negative stuff that you're going to be hearing about. This is an example of somebody from Harvard put some kind of negative comment on social media, and they jeopardized themselves by just. So there are consequences of this. I tell students this. I tell residents this. I tell students in high school. They're a little bit more savvy now because they've kind of seen it happen, But those spring break photos, from high school or even from college, probably don't do that because even me, I'm a former chief of staff of my hospital, and on the credentials committee, granting privileges for physicians that come on our medical staff. Before we even opened the application, we Googled their name. Okay, you got to do it. Because if there's something there, you let them into your hospital, something happens, your hospital's liable. Your medical staff is liable. Even those people who are in residency programs, you probably do the same thing too. Before you open your residency application or medical school application, you Google their name. If there's something negative, it's going to come back and harm you. This is a physician from Rhode Island who vented on Facebook. She thought she anonymized the post by doing this, doing that, changing the name, all that kind of stuff. In that small community, they figured out who it was. Physician was fired. So again, don't use social media to talk about any kind of patients. Communicate with patients, nothing like that at all. This is a nursing student, and that is a placenta. So this happened probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And this, interestingly enough, this student was kicked out of nursing school, but then she was let back in because at the time there was no social media policy for that school saying this was out of bounds. So again, back to the policy standpoint, you need something to cover your office and clinic residency program about what's inbounds and out of bounds for social media. This is the case where what happened when I first started blogging. Very interesting. So this is a pediatrician up in the Boston area, and he was anonymous blogger. And what he did was he blogged his malpractice trial. Really good reading. Talking about the other attorney, all that kind of stuff. So what happened was the other side found out about it. And then this huge TV moment, they said, are you this anonymous blogger, Dr. Flea? He said yes, and the suit was settled that day. So again, do not talk about patients on social media. People may remember this. I think this was down in Miami or something like that. This neuro resident, I think a neurology resident or something like that, was partying out there, got really mad at a taxi Uber driver. Somebody videotaped it, went everywhere, lost her job. So, but if you haven't seen it on YouTube, it's pretty entertaining. So I use social media for correcting misinformation, and for advocacy, for my specialty, for family medicine. So we will ask this question. So in a 2013 study, what percentage of entries on Wikipedia are inaccurate? 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, or 90%. This is probably the most fun question of all. So there's 10 people, so yeah, when we switch back. So 90% of stuff on Wikipedia that we all use every day, maybe you won't admit to it, but a lot of people do, are inaccurate. And patients bring in this stuff all the time, okay? But as an interesting kind of footnote to that, I have a couple of my family medicine friends in residency programs whose kind of their senior project is to go in to Wikipedia to try to correct some of the inaccuracies, to kind of make it a teaching academic type of thing as an opportunity. So even though there's a lot of negative stuff out there, there's a lot of people and my friends in academia who are looking for opportunities to get the right information out there. About a month ago, this was, a lot of people were sharing this about the flu, okay? And, I try to tell my patients this is like flu shot season, And so 2017-2018 flu vaccine is up to 78% effective. Doc, every time I get the flu shot, I get the flu. Oh, man. So that's frustrating. So you try to correct your information as best as you can. And this was a couple years ago, so I wrote something positive about the flu shot and how it doesn't do that. But you can't see this, but there's a lot of anti-vaccine people still out there. Okay, just the whole MMR and autism, and I take care of kids too, and it's the damage of that. We're still having damage from that, and the anti-vaccine supporters out there, they're very strong. And they are still with a lot of our patients out there. And what I tell people is you're going to be an advocate for medicine and for immunizations and things. There are still a lot of negative people out there, so you have to be prepared for that. And the language is just crazy. So don't be surprised if you start to be an advocate. You start to do that. especially I tell resident students, people are going to come after you, and you just have to be prepared for that. Can social media save a residency program? I can tell you, yes, it can. Okay. In January of this year, there was a residency program in Toledo, Ohio, that we heard about at our family medicine organization. They were going to close the residency program. Okay. The people out in that area say, hey, we need to raise awareness about this. We need to stop this, or else it's just going to get swept under the rug, and then where are our residents going to go? So our professional organization, we got together, and we spread the word on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that type of stuff. It took a while, for the State House and for the governor's office to take notice, but they finally did. And they stepped in, and the residency program, as right now, is still open, and would have never happened without advocacy, without social media awareness. Right this morning in Dallas, our state organization, received an advocacy award from our national organization, about advocacy for this residency program, and it was all because of social media. Okay, the positive effects of spreading your story of social media, why it's effective, it can really make a difference. It can save a residency program. And this is just a fun thing, I think it was last year or the year before. Remember that TV commercial, with Alan Alda and stuff, and saying, Dr. Pose? I'm like, that really got me mad. So I'm like, so we had a family medicine meeting right around that time. And say, hey, we need to be advocates for family medicine. Family medicine, Dr. Pose, that is our past president, Defiler from Pennsylvania. And so she took part in our fun little thing, just to be fun advocates for our specialty, and to say, hey, this is why family medicine rocks. And was picked up by some of our other state organizations. So it was kind of a fun little thing to do for advocacy. So I did a little TEDx talk in our local community in Youngstown, Ohio. I won't play it for you, but it's on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's about 20 minutes. Basically, just talking about medicine, trying to dispel myths about, what people hear about doctors and medicine in the press and in the media is not accurate, and we have to stand up for ourselves. So social media is fun, yet it is impactful here, okay? So there's a guy out in Las Vegas, calls himself Z-Dog MD, and people may have heard about him. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to raise awareness. He's trying to put a positive spin, on medicine. He's a family doctor by training. And for people who are familiar with him on YouTube, a lot of people have heard about him, trying to raise awareness about medicine. He's discussed topics like physician burnout. He's talked topics like physician suicide, trying to get the conversation going. And I will play his video here, and I think that will be close to the end of my talk.
Once I was 7 years old, my daddy showed me the path to be a doctor can be lonely. Once I was 7 years old. It was a long, tough road, but we thought we were tougher, pushing each other out the way as pre-meds we would suffer. By senior year I bought a suit for interviews. My mother was so confused because her son had turned into a gunner. Once I was 20 years old, my daddy told me, don't be a PCP like me, do Durham please. Once I was 20 years old. I always had that dream like my daddy before me. Be a healer, take the time wanna know my patient story. That subspecialty glory just always seemed to bore me. To make health primary, that passion always seemed to draw me. Soon I was 30 years old, trapped in a system that sucks souls. Insurance, CHR, press Gainey own me. Soon I'll feel 80 years old. I only see one goal, Health 2.0's a failure, but I know with all our voices we can make it greater. I got my team with me, our time is now, not later. We love our patients, hate the system, let some break it major. Once I was 40 years old, our story unfolds. I was finally shown Health 3.0 before me. Once I was 40 years old. Old. Our practice full grown. We've touched thousands of lives, but we're still learning. Soon I'll be 50 years old. I still marvel at this life, my wife and children all me. And so I tell them how I'm touched by all my patient stories. I got my colleagues with me, we relive that med school glory. And those we've lost along the way, my brothers, I'm still sorry. Soon I'll be 60 years old, my daddy'd be proud of his son. Remember why we live this life, to make a better one. I made a man so happy when I saved his little son. I hope my children follow daddy into medicine. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I look back on my road and see a job I did? Hell no, I'll see a calling. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Soon I'll be 60 years old. And will I look back on the road and see a job I did? Hell no, I'll see a calling. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Old. My daddy showed me the path to be a doctor can be lonely. Once I was 7 years old. Once I was 7 years old.
So I hope, I hope my remarks here have shown you, that social media is not a bad thing. It can be a bad thing. It can be a negative thing. But what I tell docs across the country is that you can use this digital communication media in a positive way, to get your message out there, whatever that is. To dispel myths, to be an advocate, for your specialty, for medicine in general, for patient education. Those are the things that I think that we need to utilize this. Our patients are utilizing this. Students or residents are utilizing this. And I think it's important for medicine to do that. So I invite you to check out my website. And thank you so much for the time.
Mike, thank you. It's always difficult to do this over lunch. Mike, it was just wonderful, though, and it was totally not only appropriate, but it was actually beneficial, and some of the videos were outstanding.
Great, thank you so much.
Questions for Dr. Sevilla? Yes.
Mike,
oh, who's that young man there? I can't tell.
I
just saw you over there.
Oh, Lord. Thank you very much, Ajoy Kumar. Mike, thank you for coming down to Tampa to talk to us about this. You and I have been on Facebook, Twitter, all sorts of things. I think you need to explain a little bit more when it comes to credentialing, because my role as CMO, we had to do the credentialing thing, and we do look at social media. And we actually caught a person that was trying to get on our medical staff and didn't disclose they had a DUI, had a drinking problem, so on and so forth. So I would appreciate if you could talk a little bit more about the searches people do and why they do those searches, because I don't think a lot of our physicians, regardless of what age you are understanding how important what you put out there stays out there and never goes away.
Yeah, so I'm stealing somebody's phrase, but you have a footprint out there. You have a social media footprint out there that starts, a long time ago. And what I especially docs, is to do kind of your own social media audit and just to Google your name every few months and see what really comes up, you know? And how I have people try to overcome some of the negative stuff there is to be proactive about it. We talked about LinkedIn, starting that. If your office or clinic or hospital has a website, then you can link to that with your name. So, but yeah, it's very important whether you're hospital credentialing, whether you're applying for a residency program, whether you're applying for medical school or any kind of job. That's going to be the kind of the credentialing standard of care now. You have this application, but there's just kind of like a Google test now to see what's positive and negative out there. I can't emphasize that enough. Yes, sir.
It's not social media, but communicate or use a secure patient portal to communicate with your patients?
Yes, that's a great question. A secure patient portal, meaning like patients have to enter a password to get in. Is that what you mean, sir?
Sure.
Yeah. Because that's a more recent thing. So if patients have to log in with a login and a password to get into a portal, yes, communicate with patients that way, absolutely.
Other questions for Bill?
There's a gentleman.
Is there another one? Yes.
Yeah.
Jennifer, well, you're closer. Why don't you go?
I won't throw it. There are glasses of water everywhere.
All right.
The other question I had, we just started a new practice, and one of the things we talked about inaccurate information on the internet.
Absolutely.
Is that when we Google my name, which I do that periodically to see what it shows.
Right.
The address Google shows is 2 practices back from me from over 3 years ago.
Exactly.
And I have made multiple requests to Google in the last month to update or change.
Yeah.
People now are showing up from companies that are being sent out that have leads on this that say, oh, for $800, we can get your Google information corrected. I've had 3 of those people show up at the office. And it's like a scam of some sort, I would think. But
it doesn't work.
They said because you're not a Fortune 500 company, Google has no interest in doing it right for you.
Yeah. No, but yeah, communicating with Google does not help at all. You said you have a website for your own practice, is that right?
Yes.
So eventually, those searches will kind of bubble up there. And LinkedIn also helps there too, if you're not on that already, to put your correct information on that. It does take a little bit of time for that bad information to get diluted out, but those are the recommendations that I have with that. Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
A good friend of mine has a phrase, the solution to pollution is dilution. So trying to get your own information up there, it'll eventually come up. So.